Welcome back. As you can see, I'm still in Halloween mode. I don't get trick-or-treaters locally. I've never gotten them since I moved into this area 11 years ago, and I don't expect to. So I kind of have to make my own Halloween and do the best I can. And welcome to Halloween time. Today I thought I would discuss an issue I raised in the last video. The last video was some considerations that you ought to keep in mind if you're going to sell merchandise at an antique mall. And one of the issues I brought up and touched on only very briefly was insurance. And I thought that was worthwhile to do some follow-up on. So that's what we're going to do today. Okay, so maybe you already have insurance. I mean, we all have some sort of insurance. If you drive a car, you're keeping insurance on it. If you own a home, if you have a mortgage, the mortgage is insured, and usually the property is insured as well. So many of us, and I'm not going to go so far as to say most of us, because I really don't know what anybody's individual circumstances are. Many of us already have insurance covering the items in our home. That would include our resale stock, the items we have bought specifically for the purpose of reselling, either online, in a shop, through Craigslist, at the flea market, yard sales, however it is you plan to sell these items. Your resale items, if they are in your home, they are covered by your homeowner's insurance. Whether or not they are adequately covered is another matter, because there is a lot of speculation in the insurance industry that most of us do not have adequate insurance, but that is another issue altogether. We're going to touch on it, but no one can determine whether or not you have adequate insurance except you. So what happens if you don't own your own home? If you're a renter, for example? Well, I'm sure you've heard of rental insurance, and well, actually it's called renter's insurance. These are policies you can get that cover you, the property you have within the building owned by your landlord. So the insurance doesn't cover the actual building, but it covers your possessions within that building. If you are renting, I can't stress strongly enough, please consider getting renter's insurance. I have heard so many horror stories, and I've witnessed several, in which people in a rental situation have been literally forced out of their homes and into the streets because a nearby apartment had water damage or fire damage, things that were completely out of the renter's control. So these are people who in no way contributed to the cause of having them ousted from their apartment. And renter's insurance can protect you from the consequences of something like that, from the smoke damage from the fire in the neighbor's building, things like that. So certainly consider it. And in that case, your possessions, your resale items are going to be covered automatically by your renter's insurance. You can also add riders to any of your insurance policies. They often insure silver, jewelry, art, things of that nature, things that are unusually valuable. you can get a special rider added to your renter's policy or your homeowner's policy to cover them. And they can cover you for all kinds of things, up to and including something the insurance industry calls mysterious disappearance. You see, the thing is, with some insurance policies, in order to cover you for theft, there has to be some evidence of a burglary, a window broken, a lock jimmied, whatever. But, what happens if it's someone who actually entered your house with permission and walked out with something they shouldn't have walked out with? That would be the mysterious disappearance. That's when that particular clause kicks in. If you're going to get insurance, might as well get covered for as much as you can. So absolutely consider your homeowners and your renters. Others of you have your excess goods, the things that are eventually destined for resale, housed in storage facilities. Now, this is really common with those of us, and of course you hit a certain age and it's almost inevitable, who have inherited estates from our parents, grandparents, in-laws, whatever, more things than we can house in our homes. We're not really sure what to do with it. Sometimes the rented storage facility is just temporary until we can make a division among the family members, make sure everybody has a crack at grandma's china before we put it on eBay. That sort of thing. It always pays to have items in a separate storage facility insured. Now, a lot of these facilities have excellent security, and I'm not trying to knock them at all, but they are burglary targets. There's no two ways around it. And think about it. If you're a burglar and you're going to go somewhere, most of these facilities are not patrolled by humans overnight. They may have cameras, they may have secured fences, but in general, as a burglar, you don't want to confront a human being. They might hurt you, you might have to hurt them. You hurt them, you go to jail for a really long time. That's just burglary 101. And the items are considered by the owners valuable enough to warrant a storage rental fee every month. That's telling the burglar that there are goodies in those storage lockers. So you really, really need to insure anything that's stored in one of these facilities. And as I say, I'm not trying to knock those facilities. They are great. Boy, this can come in so handy if you're moving, if you're downsizing, if, as I say, you're trying to split an estate between a number of different heirs and you have to contain the property until everybody gets their rightful chance at a pick. Sure, but do make sure it's insured. In general, these insurance policies are not very expensive. They're certainly not cost prohibitive. Nothing like that. Same thing with the little rider you would put on your homeowner's insurance for art or silver or anything that's very valuable. Not very expensive at all. Definitely a good investment. When you consider, and this is one of the things most people don't consider, when you consider the value of the items you have, it really starts to add up. So here's a challenge for you. Grab your cell phone, open a cabinet in the kitchen, your choice. Open it, click. It can be a drawer, in fact. Click. Take a picture. Next time you're in a houseware store, start pricing what it would cost you to replace the items in that cabinet or drawer, and then multiply it by all the cabinets and drawers in your kitchen, and that's your kitchen alone. If it's grandma's china, and you would have to replace individual plates through a china replacement service, you can pretty much bet you're going to pay at least $10 a plate for that. And if grandma's service is a standard 45-piece service for 8, you could be looking at as much as $4,500 just for grandma's china. So most of us do have more valuable stuff than we ever really thought we had. So yeah, protect yourself. Now, when I look at what I have that is targeted for Etsy, the stuff I have targeted for eBay is expensive dolls. They are just separate, expensive, and anybody can understand why I would insure something like that. The Etsy stuff, not so much, because most of this, as you know, you've seen the videos, I take you shopping with me, you know what I'm paying for these items. In most cases, the item cost is from $3 to $10. I would have to say approximately 5 or 6, just as a ballpark figure. I've got about 50 items listed right now. So right now we're looking at approximately $250 worth of stuff. That's what I've paid for it in my Etsy shop listed. And perhaps double that in terms of what I have waiting to be listed. And I am not like a super dedicated reseller. I am not listing hundreds of items. This is a very part-time thing for me. I do reselling as part of teaching you how to resell. So you got to look at this as the low end. If I, at somewhere in excess of $500 worth of stock in my kitchen right now, am the low end, it doesn't take much imagination for you to realize how much stuff you have. And that was just my cost. That's wholesale. If I take a look at retail, now, at retail, I would be expecting not just a return on the dollars and cents I invested, but the time to find it, to identify it, to acquire it, to bring it home, clean it, list it, blah, blah, blah. Well, we're probably doubling that. So I've probably got about $1,000 worth of stock if we took the retail. And this is just the stuff that I'm piling up on my kitchen table, which you have seen. I'm not going to show you another picture. Frankly, it's no cleaner than it was the last time I showed you. My bad. But still, I've already humiliated myself about as far as I can on that one. That mess represents about $1,000. So imagine if you have more. A lot of you have items all over your home. You're hoping to downsize and get rid of the things that are in your cabinets, on your shelves, sitting on the bedside table. And good for you if that's what you're going to do. We should all do a lot more of that. Boy, ka-ching, ka-ching, it's really adding up. So insurance is indeed valuable. So we need to consider insurance, even if we're not selling in a brick and mortar facility. If you are selling at an antique mall, etc., some sort of flea market even, some sort of area that is open to walk-in traffic from the general public. What you want to consider is you want to make sure you are insured for damage for theft, for mysterious disappearance as well, because a lot of insurance companies will not pay off for theft unless you can prove the item was indeed stolen. So you want that mysterious disappearance so that you're covered if, well, gee, it was there at 10:30, no one bought it, but it disappeared the next time I stopped by at 11. You want to make sure of that. So consider this. And also, when you talk to the insurance agent, find out if you can add that as a rider on your existing homeowners or your existing renter's insurance. If you can save some money, and you might be able to do it. All depends on the companies and the policies. Let's see. When you are talking to your insurance agent about getting insurance, what you need to do is, in writing, either text or email the insurance agent and say, could you tell me what, if anything, is specifically excluded from this policy? In other words, what will they not cover? Now, the reason you want to do this in writing is because this compels them to give you a list of things they don't cover. And it needs to be in plain, simple language. In other words, your policy might say, we don't cover acts of God. Well, define act of God. Another term they use that it can be a difficult one to process is force majeure, which basically is just, major catastrophe. That would cover something like an act of war, but it might well cover a hurricane or a tornado. You need this to be very clear. What is an act of God? Is it a tree falling on your shop? Is it a hurricane? Is it a flood? Is it an invasion by the Albanian army? You need to be really, really clear about this. And also keep in mind that a lot of homeowners policies do not cover you for flooding. You have to get separate flooding insurance. Make sure that whatever you do, you have a clear definition of flooding, because flooding can be high water. It can come from a hurricane, it can come from a tornado, it can come from a busted kitchen pipe. So terms can be really confusing, and you need to know what those terms are. Anything you have a question about, write that question. Do it in writing to your insurance agent. You can do it with a text, you can do it with an email, you can do it with an actual, snail mail letter. But you want to have proof that A, you asked the question, and B, what the answer was. Because when anything is vague, you're relying on the response when it comes time to file your claim. So if you say what specifically is excluded and the insurance agent does not say flooding is excluded, you can negotiate with the insurance company, even if, in fact, in the fine print of your policy, it does say flooding is excluded. If you can flap that email in their face or the copy of that text and say, I asked, and this is what the agent said, most insurance companies will at least negotiate with you. And remember, everything becomes a negotiation when you're filing a claim. Filing a claim, we've got another point I want to discuss with you, and that is getting your insurance from a company that does most of its business in some other area geographically than the area you live in. My insurance comes out of Florida. my homeowners. I live in Pennsylvania. Why would I do that? Wouldn't it be more convenient to have it in Pennsylvania? Sure. But they do most of their business in Florida. And what that means is if Pennsylvania is hit by a natural disaster, my insurance company doing most of their business in another part of the country is probably not going to have a great many claims. Certainly it's not likely they're going to have so many claims they might be forced into bankruptcy or forced to settle claims for, 60 cents on the dollar. This happens. Don't think it doesn't. Your insurance company will tell you it won't. Oh, we would never do that. Happens all the time. If you are in California, try to get your insurance out of New England. If you are in New England, try to get your insurance out of Texas. Just some other part of the country. Because a disaster like Hurricane Katrina is of the scope that could wipe out several insurance companies, and you don't want to be on the wrong end of that. Now, I'm not saying your insurance company will do this. I'm not saying they will lie to you about it. I'm just saying don't take the chance, because yes, it does happen. And if a disaster is too big, they can just take the matter into court, and a court will say, yeah, you don't have to pay off. I know, scary, true. Okay. So that's just a little piece of special advice. And as I say, I know it's easier to deal with a local company. It's more emotionally comforting to deal with the same company your friends and neighbors are all dealing with all in your backyard, and it's easier to think they probably know about your concerns and what the problems in your area are. No. You want somebody far, far away so that when they start getting hit with insurance claims for the hurricane that tore through your state, it does not represent 80% of their policyholders. So just keep that in mind. Okay. Shipping insurance is the final thing I want to touch on. Now, I'm pretty sure at this point we all know that if you ship out an item, if you're selling online, you ship the item out, you stick it in a priority mailbox or your own box and pay priority postage, it's insured for $50. So does that mean that you don't need additional insurance? Well, no, not by a long shot. Personally, I insure everything that goes out of my Etsy shop if the total cost is more than $20. I used to have a $50 cutoff point. Now it's $20. Part of this is in our post-COVID universe, packages are getting... Yesterday, I got a note from one of my Etsy buyers, and apparently her item has been in Amarillo, Texas for the last 2 weeks. Go figure. This is the third time this has happened to me, that a buyer has said, I got this 3 weeks ago and, it's not here yet, and it's been in some postal distribution center, usually 3 or 4 miles away from the delivery destination. I mean, in other words, you put that package on a roller skate, give it a hard push, and it'll get down the street to the buyer. They're not doing that. In the post office, and it's staying there for 2-3 weeks. No idea what's going on. This does seem to be some sort of COVID impact on the mail delivery, but I can't say for sure. But in any event, the point is, I insure everything over $20, and I've decided that if it's under $20, I don't have a problem covering the loss myself. It's like $17, I'll give you your money back. But when it gets over $20, I want it insured. And the reason I will get insurance from someone other than the post office is the post office is no longer paying off claims. Used to be they paid them off pretty routinely. No. Now they want to see a broken box. They want the box actually physically crushed, or they're saying it wasn't postal damage. Well, that's absurd because let's face it, you can knock a box around pretty badly, shatter the contents inside, even if the contents are well packed, and still not damage the box, especially if you use good quality boxes and good quality packing materials. But the post office is judge, jury, and executioner on this. You buy your insurance from them. They determine who was responsible for the damage, and they determine whether or not they pay out. It's entirely in their hands, which is, frankly, one of the most self-serving business practices I've ever heard of. I have found they are not paying off. If I had to put a number on it, I'd say they have probably paid off about 60% of the claims that I know of, not just my own claims, but other sellers I talk to, about 60% of the damage claims. So what do? I go over to Etsy's insurance. They go through a company called Insured, and on a package valued up to $100, the insurance is 80 cents. No brainer. Of course I'm going to do it. eBay uses ship cover, which is a little more expensive. Still, again, with eBay, the stuff I sell on eBay is much more valuable. So clearly it's going to be more expensive in any case, but oh yes, I will put their shipping insurance on it. All I need for these claims is a photograph of the damage from the customer. Show me the damage and the insurance pays off. Not so with the post office. The post office is like, well, hold the box and bring it to the post office and maybe we'll cover it. No. I am tired of fighting with the post office about damage claims. 100% of my insurance business is outside of the post office, and that includes adding the additional USPS insurance. No, it's always with a private company. So I wanted to share that with you because in most cases, most people just don't do enough insured shipping to have that background of experience with filing claims to actually be able to look at this and say, well, what's their percentage of payout? As I say, it's looking like it's around 60% now, which is not good, especially if you are paying extra for this insurance. You are throwing your money away, and so you're losing the insurance money and the item. So definitely go over to the competing insurance companies. As I say, Etsy uses Assurant, eBay uses ship cover. If you have anything that is worth insuring, use either one of those companies instead. All right, so that is sort of the down and dirty on insurance and how it works. And keep in mind, I am not an insurance agent, so I'm not giving you insurance agency information. I'm giving you a business owner's take on what I think you ought to have. And a lot of it is what I have myself. So good luck with your insurance adventures, and certainly let me know in the comments if you've had any interesting experiences with your insurance. All right, I'll see you all tomorrow. Happy Halloween.